Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. I am David Valente. Thank you for joining us wherever you're joining us from, LPTV, the Political Deep Dive group, our YouTube, LP's YouTube, wherever you're joining us from. We thank you for joining us. We have some comments in the room. We are an interactive show. If you have any questions for our guest, Jess Mears, please feel free to drop them in. And before we get to our guest, I do want to go over some housekeeping items for the LP. So, coming up, the LP activists and candidate training is coming up. We actually already had one in Atlanta, Georgia. It was a smashing success from all those attended. And I just wanted to give you the dates of the ones that are coming up. So we have South Jordan, Utah for the Region 1. That is going to be July 17th and July 18th. Norfolk, Virginia, which is July 31st to August 1st. Long Beach, California, August 14th and 15th. Let's see. Des Moines, Long Beach, California, and then Des Moines, Iowa, which is September 18th to September 19th. And if you want information, you can go to this address right here. Shreveport, Louisiana, September 25th, 26th. October 10th, 9th and 10th in Newark, New Jersey, and October 16th and 17th in Indianapolis, Indiana. Please, if you're anywhere near those, please feel free to attend the one that's most convenient to you. You don't have to live in the region that they're set up for. It's just that they're very space limited. But the great thing about this training is that whether you're interested in being a candidate or interested in running an affiliate, we have a track for you to learn all different aspects of running a campaign, being a campaign manager, being a campaign treasurer, which is we definitely have a need for that for all of our campaigns. Same with our affiliates, learning how to be a treasurer for an affiliate, how to run an affiliate, how to do outreach and things like that for affiliates. So it doesn't matter which track you choose, you're going to get a great education. You're going to be a certified, trained activist or candidate with the LP. And when you go back to your state, people are going to be able to pick your brain. It's kind of like a train the trainer type thing. So when you go back to your state, you can actually give training and teach other people how to do these jobs. So it's just expanding the knowledge of the LP. And I can't recommend this enough because you got people like Kara Schultz, you've got Apollo Pizzell, you've got Tara DeSisto, Tyler Harris, who was a guest last week. Will all be participating in a lot of these trainings. So definitely, if you get a chance to go to that website up there on the screen and register for training that is coming up. Also, 50th anniversary is coming up. We'd love for you to attend. The 50th anniversary is in Denver, Colorado, and it is on the weekend of August 27th, 28th. And tickets are $250 for general admission and $1,500 if you're a high roller. But this will be, this is a great chance for us to get out there, celebrate, have a good time, talk to your fellow libertarians, because for a lot of us, we haven't had a chance to get together. So that's the great thing about this event, is we're going to have a chance to get together, hang out, have a good time, and not worry about like board meetings or any of that other politics stuff. So and we'd love to see you there. Finally, if you're a libertarian business, one thing I'm going to do on my show is to offer it's not advertising. If you have a libertarian run business, we'd like to feature you on the show. So reach out to me. Here is my email address, davidvalente@lp.org, david.valente@lp.org. Reach out to me. Tell me about your business. I'll reach out to you and we'll discuss. And then on a future episode of the Libertarian or the Political Deep Dive, I will certainly feature your business and look forward to doing that. And I'll have to stop for a moment because our guest just disappeared. Oh, there she comes. There she is. All right, let me bring her on. I'm excited about this interview because from starting a college affiliate to climbing to one of the highest positions within the Libertarian Party of being a deputy campaign manager for a presidential campaign, she's really done it all. And Jess Mears, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me on, David.
Excellent, excellent. So we're going to talk about Clubhouse, but you are one of the more fascinating people in the Libertarian Party. You've really kind of done a lot of things, and want to tap your brain on things that you've done, and the experiences that you've had, and then we'll get into Clubhouse a little bit later. But go ahead and give everyone a little bit of a background about you, your kind of your personal narrative.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'd love to share my story of why I was called to kind of do all the things that I've done with my life. And it started really when I was a little kid. I grew up in a small town called Lima, Ohio. I had two parents that had me when they were 21. So they were pretty young parents, and they definitely weren't ready to have kids at that point in time. And when I was in kindergarten, my parents decided to get divorced. And I took it really hard. A small percentage of children will come out of divorce with taking it very difficultly. Most children do come through divorce, though, with very little major impacts on their lives. But when I was in kindergarten, I struggled because of that divorce that was happening in our household. And my teachers decided to send me to this grade called pre-first. It's between kindergarten and first grade, and I don't even think it exists anymore. But what that meant for me is that I was 1 year older than the majority of the children that were in my grade. And so being a larger child already, I was a giant child for the grade that I was in after I came out of pre-first and got back with the next grade. And so I just kind of always felt really like very awkward in my own skin and in my own home. I was a latchkey kid. I often came home to no parents there and taking care of my little sister. My mom worked multiple jobs, and while I was never neglected, my mom wasn't able to be there for me the way that I think she probably wanted to be. And so I struggled with school, and I didn't have the same home life that I saw with friends when I would go to their sleepover parties. And then in middle school, a friend invited me to her church youth group. And that was the first time I ever found community. I found adults that cared about me. They kept inviting me to come back to the church. And when they didn't see me, they would recognize that, and they would reach out and they would invite me and kind of bring me into this community. And it was my first ever community. And I was really lucky to find that, because the path I could have been on could have been much worse. I could have engaged in self-harm. I could have gotten involved in crime, but instead I found adults that really cared about me, and I saw them twice a week or sometimes more. And I have ever since then gone on a mission in my life to pay that forward by building community everywhere I go and everywhere I live. And what I've really realized as I've kind of looked at my own personal story and why it applies to how I'm an advocate for liberty is that the government stole something from me when I was a little kid. My mom was forced to work multiple jobs because she needed enough money to raise two little girls. And the government stole 30 to 40% of her paycheck. And what that really meant is the government stole my mom from me 30 to 40% of the time. And so if I didn't have my mom having to work those multiple jobs, I might have had more of that community that I so desperately wanted in my own home, and I didn't have it. And it's because the government was taking money from my mom's paycheck and robbing her. And it robbed me of having the parent there that I actually needed when I was a little girl. So now I'm an advocate for human freedom because I want people to be involved in communities. I want people that have support systems that are there for them, but I also want their parents to be in their homes with their kids, taking care of their kids and raising their children, and there to help them with homework. So that's my personal story of how I became an advocate for human liberty and why I'm building community, why I do all the things that I do. It's because I want people to have their families. I want people to have their very best lives. And I know that we can do that as long as we get the government out of the way.
Excellent, excellent. So, one of your first libertarian communities that you tried to build was at the University of Cincinnati. Is that correct?
Yes, feels like a lifetime ago at this point. But when I was a college student, I went to Welcome Week where there were all of these tables of all the student clubs. And I saw college Democrats, college Republicans. And I knew at that time I was a libertarian and I hadn't really gone full blown into it, but I wanted to see libertarians represented. And I noticed that they weren't there. And I did a little digging and found out the club didn't exist. So it turns out often when you find yourself as a libertarian and you want to find more libertarians, you have to build it yourself. But if you build it, they will come. And we created a student group on the campus called the Bearcat Libertarians. And it was a pretty awesome experience. We did range days that were paid for by our student fees, that the student life fees that you pay into, and they kind of disperse the funds to clubs. So we used university dollars to go and do range days and all sorts of awesome activities, including the 2010 National Convention. University of Cincinnati students went to that on our campus fees that we paid into for that. But we did go to that national convention in St. Louis as a campus students.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent.
Yeah.
So what did you do from Cincinnati? Where did you move on to?
So after college, I moved in with my grandparents in Florida since they had been living in Florida for quite a while. Kind of wanted to catch up with them and have a free place to live for a little while with sunnier skies. I also slipped and
Yeah.
fell on ice a number of times in Cincinnati and decided that it was time to get out of Ohio. So I moved to the Villages, Florida, which a number of people have definitely heard of the Villages. It is the universe's largest retirement community, to my knowledge. And while I was there, I decided to start a libertarian club with a bunch of senior citizens, and it was pretty cool. We founded the club pretty much right around the time when the Tea Party was taking off, and by the time I was ready to move out of my grandparents' home, I think the Tea Party took over the club that I started there. But we did have a Villages Libertarian Club.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So yeah, I mean, you just moved into your grandparents' house and decided to start an organization. That's excellent.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved with the National Libertarian Party?
It was during the 2016 Johnson Weld campaign. I was a volunteer at the Florida level as leading the Florida campaign. And I was very fortunate when I was in college and I was out looking for resources for building that college campus group. There wasn't a lot there at the time. I did a lot of Googling and I found this pack called Atlas Liberty Pack. And I found that they were trying to send libertarians to DC for training. And I registered for this scholarship and I received it. And I was able to go to DC for like 5 days and take some best campaign training that is even available. And I had back in college, I had started building these campaign skills because I received that scholarship and went and did that when I was in college. And so by the time I was living in Florida and it was 2016, the Johnson Weld campaign was gearing up in like July or so. I was the Florida state director for the campaign. Then I organized the campaign in Florida, and the campaign, they said to me, like, what are you doing there? Because you're doing something right. And we want to know if we can send you elsewhere. And I said, well, I will quit my job if you give me a full-time job on this campaign. So I quit my full-time job at that time. And I took a pretty big risk to go on the Johnson Weld campaign for not very long, of like 4 or 5 months. And then it's over after that. But after on election night, Lauren Doherty, she was a special projects director for the Libertarian Party at the time, said she wanted to start a development department and needed some help and asked if I would want to work with her. And so I was really fortunate to be able to start a fundraising job with the National Libertarian Party right after the Johnson Weld campaign concluded. So that was kind of like opportunity of a lifetime. I had always really loved the Libertarian Party. I got involved with it back in college. And it was like this is the coolest thing ever. So I spent 4 years working for the national LP and really loved being able to work for the party, advocate for the party, meet all these people within the party, and just be part of it. I really believe that the Libertarian Party has such a strong future ahead of it, and I see the differences. I mentioned that I went to that 2010 national convention when I was a college student, and the differences that have happened in the last 20 or last 10 years of the Libertarian Party. There were in 2010, I looked around and there weren't people like me other than the people that I brought with me. There were very few college students there. There were very few young women there. Now at libertarian conventions, the turn has really taken place where there are young people in the Libertarian Party now, families. There's so much more diversity. So I've seen this party change a lot within just a decade or so, and I'm very excited about its future.
That's excellent. So, outline some of the stuff that you did with the National Libertarian Party while you were there.
So much. There's a kind of was a bit of a work addict when I worked for the Libertarian Party because I had a lot of fun with it and I did a lot of fundraising. One of the things I enjoyed doing the most was just hosting these conference calls where we would have a topic and we'd have a speaker, and then we would ask people to submit questions and they'd get to have their questions answered. It was really cool. I love doing that. That was an absolute blast. But doing fundraising, I learned a lot about how to do copywriting for emails. Writing fundraising emails is kind of a little dry, but the fun part is when you get to analyze like how many people responded and what performed well. I love doing like A/B testing, and I actually turned out I loved actually fundraising. It's a job that most people don't think of as something that they want to do, but it's a very noble endeavor, and fundraisers are super essential. Without fundraisers, nonprofit organizations are unable to exist or operate. So it's really a service to your cause to take that time to learn those fundraising skills. Anybody can be a fundraiser. It just takes a little bit of time to learn.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that's, I mean, of the jobs that we need within Libertarian Party, as far as like campaigns or even our affiliates, is, one, being the treasurer, being the person that controls the money, and then the person that raises the money. We That's part of the reason why we're doing these activist and candidate trainings, is just to get more people in the party that know how to do these things. And I think that's
Mhm.
an essential skill for us moving forward. Um,
Yeah.
so 2020 rolls around, and we nominate Joe Jorgensen and Spike Cohen for our presidential ticket. And you take a leave of absence from LP National and go on the road. Tell
Actually,
us
I
a little
did
about
2
that.
jobs.
Oh, you were
I
doing both at the
continued.
same time.
Yeah, yeah. There was a lot of nights I didn't go to sleep in 2020, because I was doing 2 jobs, but I was still fundraising for the party, and I was also deputy campaign manager and aide to Dr. Jorgensen on the campaign trail.
That's awesome. So tell us why did you want to get involved in the campaign?
So, presidential campaigns are something special. I fell in love with it in 2016. I also helped out with the bar campaign in 2008. So, I've had a few cycles of experience by the time 2020 rolled around,
Mhm.
and it's magical to be part of it. There's so much excitement, and the momentum that gets built overnight on a campaign is unlike anything else. It's kind of like taking a business that you're building, and cramming 20 years of a business into a few months. So
Right.
it's an environment that's fast paced. It's constantly changing, and you presidential campaigns need people that have the skills, and if you have the skills and you can be effective, you can get things done, and you can see the real difference in front of you, and you can see people believe in something. So many people feel disenchanted with the political process, or feel like they don't have a home, or nobody represents them, and for somebody to connect with them, represent them, and make them feel like the things that they think and the ideas that they have are, just that they're out there, and that there's somebody that's running on them. It's a very, very humbling, but also fun and rewarding process that I will never forget ever.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so what lessons do you take from actually any campaign? What lessons do you bring forward in your daily work now?
I have definitely learned in campaigning how to reach out a hand and pull others up. It's not about how well you perform or how good of a job that you do, but it's about the people that you bring with you.
Mhm.
And if you can take what I did is in 2016, I learned a lot. The Johnson Weld campaign hired a lot of people from consultants from other campaigns, from Mitt Romney, John Kasich, Bernie Sanders. I thought this was a injustice to the Libertarian Party. I thought that there should be libertarians like me. I shouldn't be one of the very few big L libertarians that received a job on the Johnson Weld campaign. So that was a lesson that Steve Dosbach, Joe Jorgensen's campaign manager, really wanted to apply in 2020, was to have real libertarians on the payroll for the Jorgensen Cohen campaign. And one of the big lessons I learned from 16 was take the things that you learned and teach them. And if you can teach people, you can grow the party, grow the movement. Presidential campaigns have a good amount of resources. The presidential campaigns of the last two cycles brought in more revenue than the National Libertarian Party did in a year. So there's quite a bit more funds to play with. And when I say play, I mean bring on people to do this for their job. The opportunity to work on the Johnson Weld campaign absolutely changed my life. I was previously, before that, I was working in local government, not because I wanted to, but because that was at the time what I was doing. And I wanted to do something that was less involved with local government. And I really loved politics as a passion. So being able to have my passion also be my paycheck was something that would help me on the path to self-actualizing. So I really wanted to take that lesson I learned from 16 on, being able to do what I love and apply it in 20 and help other people out. So I guess the biggest lesson is when you have an opportunity to pull others up, do it.
Excellent. We got a question from the audience. Thomas Wayne Morris. He says, "How would I get involved in participating in a campaign?" Uh, Basically, just ask, right?
Yeah, the best way is start by volunteering. Find somebody that's running for office and volunteer for their campaign. I did a 6 to 8 years of hard time volunteering on campaigns before it ever became a paycheck. And one of my goals is to help more people be able to do this kind of work and shortcut the time distance into being able to do this as a career and as a job rather than volunteer. Volunteering is awesome. It's a great way to get experience. It's a lot of fun. You build community, you make new friends, you learn from it, but there's nothing that can compare to being able to do something that you love and you're passionate about as you're able to also be able to put food on the table.
Excellent, excellent. And you got fans out there. I'm going to say you've got a lot of fans out here.
A lot of friends, really
Yes,
good friends.
yes,
Yeah.
awesome. So it was the campaign where I've dealt, worked with you before, but got to actually see you in action. Was the campaign you rolled through West Virginia, one of the first campaign stops outside of the Beltway area, and saw you in action. I can't thank you guys enough for coming out here. I think that was one of the first candidates post nomination to travel to West Virginia. I can't even remember if any of the previous candidates had traveled to West Virginia to campaign, and it was really to help our gubernatorial campaign, Erica Klinich, to help us
Mhm.
secure our ballot access for another 4 years. And again, I can't thank the Jorgensen campaign enough for it, but watching you in action was pretty impressive.
Well, the thanks goes to my colleague Seth Levy because he saw the opportunity for us to go to West Virginia, and he knew about Erica's campaign. And as we were trying to devise a strategy for how the candidates were going to get around during a pandemic and where they were going to go to, he really said, we need to go to West Virginia. It will mean a lot. And also Christy Kendrick as well. Christy was the regional director for the campaign, and she said, we planned 2 stops in West Virginia, and she said these guys are going to be so grateful.
Yes,
And that sounds
absolutely.
like it's very true based on your
It,
remarks.
it is. It is very true. We had a great event in Martinsburg. Unfortunately, I was unable to travel to Charleston. The day that you guys came out there was the day of candidate turn in for our state. So I was
Mhm.
rapidly aging that day. I'd age like 4 or 5 years that day, just making sure that everybody got on the ballot. But you know, I was so happy to see the campaign come through, and we did maintain ballot access in the state. I consider everything
That's
great success.
awesome.
Uh,
Congratulations.
Thanks. So, like you mentioned that from 2010 to now, seeing the changing face of what a libertarian is. Um, you know, what do you make of Joe's campaign and its influence on the party? We're now seeing a lot of women being elected. When you talk about Trish Butler, Wendy Hewitt, Kalish Morrow out in California, and the participation within every state. Uh, we're seeing a greater number of different faces, different voices coming online. What do you is this attributable to the Joe Jorgensen campaign, or was this in motion beforehand?
I think things have been in motion for quite a while. We've been trying to put out that message of run local because we've been seeing an increase in numbers of people running local and winning and actually strategizing on which races to run for, especially when candidates haven't had an incumbent in many, many cycles. And
Yeah.
maybe they're just actually ready for somebody to come and try to tell them, hey, I'll take it from here. Or races that there's nobody that runs for the race. And then the board or the city council just has to end up appointing somebody.
Yep.
So we've really seen a huge difference in kind of the strategy of how to actually get elected. I think it's been in place for a little while, but the grassroots approach of a presidential campaign definitely has a trickling effect for future years down the road. We knew that this wasn't going to be an overnight results campaign, but something that would benefit from years on. So pretty much every employee on the campaign was a big L libertarian.
Mhm.
And we also empowered the grassroots. The grassroots propelled the 2020 campaign in ways that we couldn't have otherwise. We relied so much on volunteers, and they really came through. But we also invested in them with giving them training, giving them as many resources as we could, having Joe Jorgensen on a tour bus traveling the country and hitting up these cities and especially markets that haven't been reached in a long time. I think we got to a lot of people. Most of her events had 100 to 500 people at them, and these were people who otherwise wouldn't have been able to ask a question of a candidate. Dr. Jorgensen and Spike Cohen out campaigned Donald Trump and Joe Biden when it came to a ground game, and
Mhm.
they didn't get to ask Joe Biden questions. They didn't get to ask Donald Trump questions, but Joe and Spike answered the questions of everybody. We were on tight timelines, but I think that it's pretty inspirational for people to come out and during a year when they were told you're not allowed to go anywhere, and it's somebody running for president that everybody had a chance to vote for comes to their town and answers their questions. It's very impactful, and I think it inspired a lot of people, and it shows, it shows who we are. we're gonna show up, and we try to be as safe as possible. We had to devise a new strategy for campaigning in a year when people weren't allowed to really do indoor events, and we had zero transmission that was known of coronavirus during the campaign to anyone. So we were try to be as safe as possible. We had outdoor events. We were in communities. We were in parks. We were, it was so nice to just see people come together in spaces that were outdoors in nature. It was awesome. I kind of want to do campaign events outdoors in the future too.
I, yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, if a campaign can secure a bus, and I thought that was the most brilliant thing, was securing the bus of a country singer who couldn't tour this year, and
Yeah.
getting it on the cheap, and being able to do that cross country bus tour, two cross country bus tours effectively,
Yeah.
was a stroke of brilliance, and kudos to the campaign for doing that.
We were very fortunate. So, one of the individuals that joined the campaign as a volunteer first and then became a staffer was Kenna Porter of Tennessee. And
Yeah.
Kenna's family is in the music industry. Her family, one of their clients is Jason Aldean. And so they do all of the stuff, and so they had the connections with the tour buses, and we sought out competitive bids, and it was because of Kenna's father calling on some buddies to submit bids for this that we were able to get some like supreme bid for a tour bus. Cheaper than we were even expecting these numbers to come in, and so we kind of took advantage, make lemonade out of lemons situation. And so my future goals involve private jets now at this point.
Well, I'll tell you what, that I stepped onto that bus for a hot minute, and that was a pretty impressive bus. Um,
Yeah, it's really nice.
it's
It's
still
a
not a
$2
Greyhound.
million bus.
Woo, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty nice. So
Yeah.
talk about what you're doing now. You're working for Stand Together. So tell us what
Mhm.
you're doing.
So my job is, in short, in essence, I'm a teacher. I am training people all of the tools that they need to become an activist. And like when I was a young person, I actually didn't I kind of fell into politics with all the resources I already needed because, like I mentioned when I told my story, I got involved in church when I was a girl. And my church, one of the things I did for church was I hosted concerts, hardcore Christian metal concerts, emo music, ska music. I was a show promoter to raise money so that way we could go on church youth group trips. And I learned how to do organizing, community organizing, and mobilizing back in high school through being a concert promoter for my church. So this was kind of a natural progression for me in becoming a political activist. And I take for granted that that experience I had applied so well to politics, but not everybody has that kind of experience and that background. So what I do now is I train people that want to be a better activist, that want to know things. Like I shared my story earlier. I didn't know my personal story of why I'm an advocate for human freedom until I started doing my job that I'm doing now, because storytelling is something I've learned that is so impactful. When we share a story with another human, it releases this chemical in our brain called oxytocin. It's the love chemical, or like the kind of bond creating chemical. Humans are really wired to tell their stories. People don't care about what you do, they care about why you do it. And my why is because I I needed community when I was a little kid and I didn't have it. I found community as an adult and as a young person. And that's why I do what I do. So I am doing things like that. I'm teaching people how to learn their stories. And for anyone that's listening, if you want to learn what is your story, start with ask yourself, why am I an advocate for human freedom? And then say, you'll answer it. And that answer, then you say, why? And then answer that one. And then you say, why? And then you answer that. So do about 5 whys. And by the time you get to that 5th why, you should kind of get to that root cause of what got you here. It's not because you read The Revolution by Ron Paul or you heard about Harry Brown in the 80s. That's not why you're a libertarian. Your why is because something happened to you in your life that ultimately changed you and put this in you. It was because I needed community as a child that I became a libertarian, because communities are libertarian. So, and now I'm teaching, how do you build community? How do you tell your story? What is the difference between a network and a community? So all these little tools that people need to actually make a difference, that's what I'm teaching. How do you work with anyone to do good? How do you look past your differences with your neighbors or your opponents and actually come together to do something really cool? So that's what I do now. And it's pretty awesome to be able to go and meet Americans and teach them. So in essence, I am now a teacher, and it's very gratifying to take all of the experience I had from when I used to volunteer as a libertarian, or when I've worked on campaigns, or I worked for the Libertarian Party. And now I take that, all of that knowledge, and I'm taking it to all over America.
Okay. So you used all these, you got your storytelling, you got your political experience and all that stuff. Now you've wrapped it up
Mhm.
into a very passion project that you've been getting a lot of libertarians involved into, and that's a app called Clubhouse. So let's talk about Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Give a kind of a high level view of what Clubhouse is.
All right. Well, I mentioned I used to be a show promoter for my church, and the way I used to promote concerts was via MySpace. So that was my first ever social media platform, was MySpace, and that was in high school. But I have found social media to be something I've really enjoyed. Facebook helped me connect with libertarians and meet people all across the country. So I've always kind of really just had a thing for social media. And back in January, my friend Seth from the campaigns that I've worked on, he said, I want to get on this app called Clubhouse. It's invite only. And I was like, okay, let me see what I can do, because I'm always trying to help my friends out with anything. And I downloaded it, and Richard Manzo from New Hampshire let me in. So then I let in Seth, and it is right now, it's an invite only platform. Anybody can download it. And chances are, if you download the app, somebody will let you in. But also, there are ways to get invited. A friend can invite you, or you can register through a link for an event, which I'm happy to share. I'm happy to share with anybody that wants to get on, if I do a good enough job on convincing you that it's worth your time to join Clubhouse. But it's an audio only app. And you're never going to have a video on it. You can choose whether or not you want to participate in conversations. You can just listen, you can talk. I use it for multiple different functions. I'm learning on Clubhouse. One of the things that I've recently became interested in the last 2 years is the space industry and getting humans, as a political activist, I want to see us preserve human life. And here on Earth, things have gotten really scary. I mean, it's always been kind of scary for us humans here on Earth. We've had a lot of problems with humanity over the years. And I do fear what is going on with the nuclear bombs that are being built, the war. What could World War III look like? I'm concerned about humanity. So I am very interested in, what does the future of the space industry look like? We've got Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk going to space. I was kind of hoping Jeff Bezos might invite me to go with him and his brother in July. They're going up to space. So that's a pretty exciting new opportunity. If you're a billionaire, you can go to space these days.
They
So
announced
I'm
the
using
winner of that one.
Clubhouse. What's that?
They announced the winner of that. Some guy paid 27 million, I think.
Yeah.
The auction closed in like 10 minutes or something.
Yeah, that's so much
Oh,
money.
more dollars than
Um,
sense.
Yep. But so I'm learning about space, and I'm having conversations with Jim Green. He is NASA's chief scientist. and I get to talk to him. I was just talking to him like a couple hours ago, and we were talking about how to build a city on Mars. So these are things I'm learning about space, and I'm learning from the best people to learn from and to engage in these conversations. Sometimes also we'll have like a little bit more of like off the wall, lower brow conversations, like exploding bodies in space and stuff like that, kind of fun stuff. But you can also learn. I'm learning from rocket scientists, and so space is a thing I'm learning about and having fun with. But there's other ways that I use Clubhouse besides just learning and talking to people at NASA. I'm creating community on Clubhouse. I'm bringing libertarians together, which is why we're talking tonight. Is I want libertarians to know about this platform, because if we're not on it and we're not participating in the conversations, then we're missing out, because people are going to Clubhouse to actively learn and to have their minds changed. These are open-minded people that want to kind of find out something new. It's all about discovery. You're getting onto Clubhouse to see what is out there in the world without ever leaving your home or wherever you're at. Or you can do it while you're in your pajamas. Nobody's going to see you, and they're not even going to hear you unless you want to jump into the conversation. So I've been hosting conversations with former Congressman Justin Amash, Spike Cohen, Dave Smith. We're bringing everybody that we can onto this platform to have these conversations. On June 29th, we're going to be doing a Libertarian Podcasters Unite episode, or like Clubhouse room. And I hope you'll be there, because we're trying to bring the podcasting community together in a night of unity. It's probably going to be about a 2.5 hour long event starting at 9 p.m. And not exactly sure how it's going to go just yet, but every time we have these conversations, they're usually audience driven. So we're asking people to get involved, whether they have a question or a comment. And it's a platform that is great for introverts or extroverts. I'm generally a huge extrovert. So I love talking, I love meeting people, but if you're somebody that you don't want to kind of like dive into conversations right away, you can also just listen. That's one of the nice things about this app, is you can hear what's going on in people's minds all across the country. I've made friends from Australia to Saudi Arabia to India. With the COVID epidemic in India the last couple months, I've been making friendships there, people telling me what's going on in their community in India. And also this time that we've been in, just recently, it feels like for me in the DC area, things are starting to go back to normal. But we've been living in a time where it's been encouraged for us to kind of be apart from each other. And
Yeah.
Clubhouse is really bringing people together.
Yeah, I've started a club myself in there for the political
What's
deep
it
dive.
called?
It's the political deep dive,
Okay.
and we're doing every Wednesday night we kind of do a supplemental, and it's really just a free for all. Everyone gets to talk about whatever they want to talk about. I might have a few international news prompts, like we talked about Netanyahu this week
Yeah.
losing his job and all that stuff. But the cool thing is it's not just the libertarian communities, which I love the libertarian communities. And literally you can find libertarian communities on Clubhouse 24/7 now. I mean, like you
Yeah.
go on there at 4 o'clock in the morning and
Right.
you'll see people talking. And
Hmm.
that's great. You can also find out, I'm big into international affairs. So there's an election coming up in Iran, and I'm trying to find out, information about that. I want to do a show about that eventually. Uh, you know, it's a great resource, not just for libertarian politics, but for whatever you really want to go into. I mean, I've heard some people kind of criticize it as being like Zoom without video, or ham radio. But I I love the fact that you can load it up and you've got like 20 different conversations going on of just various things, and some of them are kind of trashy, some of them are just like really way high level egghead stuff, and then there are just
Yeah.
regular conversations going on.
Yep. Yeah, it is so cool how you can make connections with people that you would never ever run into. And kind of one of the most fascinating things that's happened since I got on the platform is a friend of mine that brought me onto the Johnson Weld campaign in 2016 called me a few months ago, And he said, how do you know Mark Andreessen? And I said, I don't know Mark Andreessen. And he said, he's following you on Clubhouse, because I told my friend, like, you should get on Clubhouse. This is really cool. And I said, well, I don't know how he's following me. I don't know who he is. And he said he invented the internet browser. And I'm like, what? How did I run into an inventor of the internet browser on Clubhouse? But what happened was I got on a little early back in January. The app had kind of started taking off around March or April.
Mhm.
And there were a lot of conversations that were happening with venture capitalists. And excuse me, Mark was probably in one of those. And I think I probably talked about something about the Libertarian Party, and he must have hit that follow button. And I'm really hoping that this becomes someday a relationship that I can have more conversations with Mark. He actually followed me into a Clubhouse room. The notifications on Clubhouse are a little aggressive. So I hear people tell me all the time, they're like, I see you on Clubhouse a lot because it keeps telling me you're on it. But what happens is you'll get a notification on your phone, and Mark must have accidentally saw me talking to a couple people and clicked that button and left immediately. And I tried to ping him so he could come back in, and he didn't. But I'm really hoping to someday have a more a conversation with Mark where we can talk about what's your interest in liberty, and how can, Mark get more involved in the liberty movement. His company gave $100 million to Clubhouse to
Oh, wow.
fund it. So $100 million, I mean, that gives you like almost 4 rides on a ship with Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I tell you, the one thing that I have really enjoyed about Clubhouse has been the conversations, particularly that you've started within the Libertarian Party. You mentioned it earlier that we had a conversation with Spike and Justin Amash and Dave Smith. And, I think one of the things that we've kind of lost over the last few years with social media is that the ability to communicate with one another. It's easy to kind of flame somebody on Facebook or Twitter because really they're either an avatar or, just a
Yeah.
name out there. And our
Yeah.
communication styles have gotten really, I hate to use the term dumbed down, but that really, as what has happened, I think with Clubhouse and talking to people, you're not going to get the people that, you're going to have some people that are just jerks that are going to flame anybody anyway, but you're having much better conversations out there. People are politer to one another because you get all the at least a lot of the clues, intonations in conversation that you miss in a Facebook post.
Yeah. And I think to me, the downside to Facebook is what happens when people have these kind of arguments online. What they're doing is they're looking at people's Facebook profiles, they're looking at their photos and the things they post, and they're judging one another. So it's this platform that creates, like, somebody might see somebody with their picture of like their beautiful family, and they might be like, oh, I hate that they have this beautiful family that I don't have. And that might feed into their response when they're replying on Facebook. But on Clubhouse, all of that goes away. You have a picture, a profile photo, and you can have a bio as well. But that's it. That's kind of like it takes away all the public information that people are putting on Facebook. That's not there on Clubhouse. Clubhouse is about what you're saying in the moment. And it's also not recorded. That's a part I really enjoy because we can speak more freely. We don't have to be afraid of using our words so cautiously because it's going to be recorded and that people are going to listen to it, play it back one day. And it also makes the whole barrier to entry to being part of these conversations is so much lower. Getting a podcast up and running is quite difficult. It takes a lot of work, and keep maintaining a podcast too takes a lot of work. But Clubhouse is so easy because it gives you this built-in audience. You can just go on it and you can click start a room, or you can schedule a room, and it's pretty easy. Once you get past feeling out the platform a little bit, it's not that difficult to engage and use it. So it costs $0 to host these conversations. And something like bringing together Justin Amash, Dave Smith, and Spike Cohen in one place, that these are all individuals that are presumed front runners for the 2024 nomination. Now, none of them have even said that they're definitely running or anything, but a lot of people that I talk to think that these are individuals that might run for president. And it could be 2023 or 2024 before all of those individuals were in one space together. But we brought them in for a couple hours in one digital space in the spirit of unity. It was a welcome Dave Smith to Clubhouse room. So it was a friendly room, bringing people together and bringing the liberty movement together. So that way we can be stronger and better together. And it was a very civil conversation. Most of the conversations that I engage in on Clubhouse are all very civil. And it's, hearing somebody's voice really makes you want to get to know them better. We're telling stories. We're releasing that oxytocin in our brains and connecting with one another. And for me, the platform gives me the most joy of anything I've been doing in the recent months, because I walk away from it feeling really good. And I've also made friendships with people that I haven't met in person yet, but I hope to meet them in person, because they're people I'm spending a lot of time talking with. And we're learning about each other's cultures, each other's days, and also supporting each other. The platform is the spirit of the platform is homies helping homies. And I think that's what we need here more on planet Earth, is we need to pull each other up. So shared knowledge, shared experiences, and helping each other, because we are going to be better if we help each other succeed.
We did have one question from Elastic Draft. Are you familiar with Discord, and how would you say Clubhouse compares?
I am familiar with Discord, and actually I have been using Discord to communicate with people in the space industry. There's a club that I'm a big fan of called Small Steps and Giant Leaps, and I'd highly recommend following them on Clubhouse for anybody who's somewhat interested in space. They hold amazing conversations. But what we do is we have these conversations on Clubhouse, but then we're kind of like chatting in the background on Discord, because there's no chat feature for Clubhouse. It's all vocals only. So Discord is kind of like the back channels that we use for organizing or talking in between Clubhouse rooms. So like today, I told the people that one of the people I'm trying to bring on to Clubhouse is Robert Zubrin. He wrote a book called The Case for Mars back in '96, of why we should be going to Mars to occupy Mars and forget Wall Street, right? And just chatting with these people about like, hey, here's somebody we can probably bring onto the platform. He might be available to do a room sometime. So trying to set things up. But I know that Discord has the audio capabilities, but Clubhouse is it's very special. The creators of it want people to come on and enjoy their experience, and for everyone to kind of be able to find this platform to be as amazing as I have. I'm using it for so many things, between learning, networking, making friends, and also building out my own kind of name recognition. People hear about me on Clubhouse, and I'm reaching people. I'm reaching hundreds and hundreds of people, and I'm reaching them with libertarian ideas, because that's what I enjoy talking about. And also the friends that I'm making, I'm flipping them to libertarianism as well. It's like you start building these relationships, but then eventually you kind of open that door to libertarianism, or they might pop in a room with libertarians and then they're like, what are you guys all doing? What are you guys talking about? And then, they hear something that is curious, and it starts that conversation. So we're creating community on Clubhouse, but we're also creating new libertarians as well.
That's fantastic. And I jokingly refer to you as the Pied Piper of Clubhouse. You've brought so many people over to Clubhouse. just by your advocacy. And it is my hope one day that you do become Space Oprah. Talk show out in outer space and get all those
Yeah.
accolades. But anything else you want to talk about?
I just am really excited to be able to talk about Clubhouse, talk about my own personal story, but also I want to invite people to join the app and see what it is that's on there. There's so much more than just libertarians on Clubhouse. There's a lot to learn, and there's amazing people to connect with. And the best advice that I can leave with the listeners is, when you find people that you're interested in, that maybe you think that there might be more to talk about than just a conversation on Clubhouse, reach out to people and ask them for a meeting, ask them for a one-on-one. I have made amazing connections. Clubhouse is basically giving me all of the tools that I need to do the things that I want to do. It's putting them right in my lap. All I have to do is ask someone, can I have 15 minutes of your time? Let's schedule a Zoom meeting or a phone call. And the people that are on Clubhouse, the homies helping homies culture, people are willing to say yes to meeting each other. So I'm making great connections with people. And I would highly encourage everyone to kind of start those relationships on Clubhouse, but then take them offline and build something deeper with people, because there are people out there that want to help one another, and whatever someone's interest is, they can find it on Clubhouse. Not everybody has to go down in the space rabbit hole that I have gone into, but there's so many cool things out there. And also, space is a really cool industry. There's going to be a lot of emerging business in space. So if anybody's looking for kind of something new for their future, something a lot more adventurous than what we have here on the planet, the space industry is taking off in the year 2021, and there's a lot going on. So I also invite everyone to find me in the space conversations and hop into those as well. And I'll be at Freedom Fest and Pork Fest this year. So excellent. I look forward to seeing everybody there.
So, what are your rooms on? What are your clubs on Clubhouse?
I am part of so many clubs, but I am hosting conversations with Congressman Amash in the Libertarian Party Club. I created one called Liberty Nation. That's basically just to roll people onto the platform and to host rooms that I don't want to host under a partisan label. So there's a lot going on, but Small Steps and Giant Leaps is the really cool space one that I'm not an owner of. I just participated.
Excellent. Well, get out there and get on Clubhouse. If you need an invite, you can send me your cell phone number, and I will send you an invite and get you on there. I know there are a lot of people will be happy to get you on there and get the conversation rolling. But Jess Mears, thank you so much for joining us this week. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Telling us all about Clubhouse and your personal story has been excellent, and I've really enjoyed it.
And we'll practice our stories of human freedom on Clubhouse. I actually met a storyteller at Liberty Karaoke last night, and I want to ask him to come and join us to help us all work on our stories.
There we go. Excellent. All right. Well, again, thank you so much. And thanks to everyone who joined us on the Political Deep Dive. We do have the Political Deep Dive after dark at 9:30 tonight. I believe Dan Fishman will be joining us. My sister will be joining us. We'll be talking about the stuff that's going on in New Hampshire, Benjamin Netanyahu, and a lot of different topics, whatever comes to mind, whatever brain droppings I may have. So I really appreciate everyone joining us on the Political Deep Dive this evening. We'll be back next week. I believe we're talking with Casey Daly about the situation at the border in Texas and what we can do to help. So be sure to look for those announcements as they come out early this week. And we'll see you again next week at 8 p.m. on the Political Deep Dive. And let me get to everything here. There we go. But thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. We air every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can get regular updates on our show and our guests by following us on social media on Facebook.com/ThePoliticalDeepDive, all one word, on Twitter.com/PoliticalDeep, all one word, on YouTube.com/Papaduke, PAPADUKE, on twitch.tv, The Political Deep Dive, all one word. And on Mondays, the audio of this episode is uploaded to soundcloud.com/The Political Deep Dive, all one word. And you can join in on the fun on Instagram.com/The Political Deep Dive, all one word. The best way to support the Liberty Movement is to join the Libertarian Party at lp.org. Give us a like, a share, and a subscribe on whatever platform you're watching from. It helps extend our reach, and we greatly appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you next Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern.